also have a couple of our committee members here. Of course, Kathy DeLugas, who's an art faculty member, and she's on the committee, and she does a lot of good events. Last year, I had the opportunity to go to a visiting artist and an event that they did, and it was on Jay Corick. And he not only talked about art, but he also talked about the business side of art. Because if you are going to make a living or make a pretty good living through art, you have to promote yourself and manage yourself and so on. And so obviously that is important. Cliff also too, during his presentation today, we were talking beforehand, he is going to be needing someone to help him manage some of his websites and his social media and so on. So he's looking for that. And he may also be needing a student to assist him with some of the projects that he does. And so Cliff, many years ago, created those wolves on in front of our library. And a faculty member that I worked with for many years, Marilyn Giorgio Pohl, she was an English professor here, and her husband, Bernard, who was a computer science professor up at Pitt of Johnstown, and Dr. Krasinski, our president then, they all contributed and collaborated with Cliff to make those, and they're really a good centerpiece. And so they turned out beautifully. And then they also sold some through the bookstore. So I bought one, and a lot of other people did. So it was a good thing. And so I met Cliff a number of different times, and Randy Slagle ran into him at the Westmoreland County Arts and Crafts Festival, Heritage Festival, and was speaking to him. And of course, Randy wanted him to do dogs as a to sculpt, because Randy loves dogs. But anyhow, Cliff was a student here, and then he also studied elsewhere. And I believe he studied in Italy, if I'm not correct. So he did that. And so he has a really wide range of experiences. So his topics today is as far as, the art of sculpting and the creative process, but also, too, the business side of it and promoting yourself and things of that nature. So it's a good opportunity for him. And he said, this is, as an artist, this is not always in his comfort level, but he said it's good because he said you might make some student contacts here and, get somebody to come and work with him. So it's good to work with an artist. So, but thank you, Cliff.
Well, I appreciate that. When I was, I got a phone call about 6 weeks ago from the college, and like Michael said, this isn't something that I'm, it's kind of out of your comfort zone. Putting a suit on, first of all, I don't really ever dress like this. And as an artist, you're young folks yourself, creating is something that I love to do. So this is, at first I contemplated whether even to come out, to be totally honest with you, because it's, but at the same time, I began to think not so much of myself. I don't like to really talk about myself too much, but I was thinking about you guys. And when I was in your position, and I'm 38, and I guess that's kind of old to some of you, but it happens fast. And what I'd like to do is separate this and not have your eyes glaze over. I just want to show you what I do, what I've done. And I want you to pay attention to the type of work, the type of sculpting that I've done. Okay. And then you're going to see a progression. The progression of my work, not only, as I get older in my experiences, like you guys in your lives, but I want you to pay attention to see how that stuff progresses. It does for a couple of reasons, because like you, I love to create. And if you're going to do this, you're sitting here for a couple of reasons. If you're going to do this, if this is something you're contemplating on doing in whatever field, you have to understand and discipline yourself to make a product or a service and sell it so you can put food on the table. And that's a challenge, and not only in art, in any business adventure. So I can give you some advice. Like in anything in life, advice is as good as, you got to take that and it's specific for you. But, just because I say it doesn't mean it's right for you, because we all have value. Okay. I have failed so many times, and through those failures, I figured out I'm dense. Okay. And I figured out ways to get around those challenges. And so, frankly, I'd like to open this up towards the end, and I'd hope you guys have some questions. Okay. So, a little bit of difficulty here. I had this in a kind of a chronological order. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to talk about some of the stuff. that I've created. And one thing I do want to highlight is, you know, what's the age group here? Was 18 people in their 20s, 30s too? Yeah. You're smart. I tell you, talking about value. When I went to school here, I went to Slippery Rock. Okay, I started here for 2 years. I took some drafting courses and stuff. I'm telling you right now, your staff and your faculty, okay, they're in the fields that they're teaching. Most of them. You're going to go away to school. Where you in there in a pink? Where do you want to go to school? Are you going to get your degree here? Okay. Anybody thinking about taking this as a platform and for 2 years and then going off to another college? Okay, where? Okay. Anybody else? Penn State, Pitt, Slippery Rock, anything like that. I went to Slippery Rock, okay? When I left here, I went to Slippery Rock. It's not a joke, but in essence, it was a party in a lot of sense. There were some very serious students, but you're going to find here. So what I'm trying to tell you is you're smart on 2 levels, because when you get out of here and if you do decide to do an enterprise, you're going to have to, your debt. I mean, we were talking about this. I mean, it's incredible. Your friends, your family, it's nuts. So you're doing a good thing by being here. And so let me start, and I'll just kind of show you where I started at, and go from there. So like I said, I went to school here, and then I did go to Slippery Rock. And here's a piece that I'm going to show you a lot of my student work, just a handful of stuff. Okay, this is just some portraiture. And what I don't want you to do is look at this. If this is kind of not your genre where you're at, don't look at it and say, oh, okay, I can't do that. Don't limit yourself ever. Okay, just because this is my value, but I have a lot of, like I said, I'm a blockhead. All right, and so just because you might not be where you're at, I just want to show you that that's kind of the figure, and that's where I started off. I really like that traditional field. Now, if that's not your genre, that's fine, but let's see if I don't close out this whole thing. Okay, so how do I go back to this screen? Well, this was in chronological order, so here's another work. This is at the 3 C's here. This is the wolf pack. This is a process, okay, from clay. There's the anatomy. It's really important if you're drawing anything structurally, you got to figure out how it works. Here's another piece that I did in school. It's a life-size sculpture. Somebody's in trouble. This is the wolf pack, as you can see out there. This was an awesome project, and it was a platform for me to create. And you'll find out later on when you get out of here, you know, you can create for fun, and that's great, but you've got to have somebody pay for it. How do you do that? And I'm going to try to detail that a little bit. There's another picture. It's a detail. You can see all this out here. This is in 2005.
That's actually done in the gym.
Yeah.
That information.
You don't know how to get back to the screen, like where I can.
I think you could probably minimize up there at the very top, like in the right-hand corner up there. Is it minimized there? Or the other? You know, right by the X up there.
This here?
Yeah, that one right next to it. Yeah, see if that'll work.
I don't know. So now none of these are. Okay. Well, yeah, it was in an order. So here's. I don't know what this stuff is here. Okay, so I'll just improvise, and I'll go to my Facebook page. Probably that's what I should probably do. But here's that's okay. Well, heck, that looks nice. You guys like that? Okay, there's the armature. Okay, here's some drawings. This was for a project in Kentucky that I was bidding on, and then this is another one in Erie that I was bidding on. You start with conceptual drawings. There's a detail. Okay, here's a fountain that I was commissioned to do. Again, somebody had to pay me for it. They came to me. There's my dog because I like to sculpt. Okay, so this was something that I wasn't paid to do, but I offered. I love wildlife. This is a really cool piece I just did this year. It's a little bear cup, and I sell this at some local venues, and I'm trying to get it online to sell as well. There's some prints. Okay, this is one of my earlier pieces. I have a religious line that I produce to market myself and my talents. Here's a piece here. Okay, these are large industrial planters. Do I like doing that so much? Not really, but this is a nice project. It gave me some cash flow. Okay, so this is at the hospital. I'm doing more and more memorial stuff. And there's things that you're going to do and you're going to pursue and have to organize. I even did some countertop work. So it's very versatile. You can't eat sculpture, right? So you have to sell it. So here's the process there. I hired out a bricklayer and I cast these caps. Here's a piece that I enjoyed to do. Okay, this is a guy on back in the 30s. He's on one of those hooks when they busted down buildings, a wrecking ball. Back to this piece of work. Let's see what else there is. Again, the memorial stuff. All right. And these projects here, here's another one. This is one I enjoyed doing. This is for NC State. It's an award. Okay. It's a really cool that you start with the conceptual to sell a project, because a lot of times people in these fields don't have the capacity to understand or visualize. And then here's some new work that I have. It's pretty interesting. Back to that fountain that you saw. This was a really cool project. I tore this apart. When it was halfway set up, I took a hammer and a chisel and I beat it up. There's plumbing in here, and that was a fun project for me. It's different, you know. Here's a wildlife piece. Okay, I designed these benches. Unfortunately, they hired a sculptor from Canada to do this, but and then this is back to that. I don't know if we're gonna. These are all of them right now. Here's a pillar. Okay.
Come back to that one of you. That was a good one.
Here's a landscape. Excuse me, Michael, real quick. This is a landscape job. Okay, I've done some of these. These are profitable, but my body's breaking down, so I can't continue to do that. And I got to the point where I actually hired out a couple landscape crews, and we would go out and do stuff because I'm real creative. Again, don't refine yourself just because you don't do the sculpture. I don't know what your talents are, but you'll find them, and then challenge yourself, because sometimes you have to survive. So you have to get outside of your comfort levels, and you'll learn from that, and then you'll come back to your center, so to speak, and you just have to know where you want to go with your life. Okay, and if it's not working for yourself, that's totally fine. What were you saying?
No, I saw the picture of the sculpture itself.
That was in college. Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't. Yeah, that was
good. That was a good one.
Yeah, and again, and so you can see the progression from going from the landscape. So you can see how I've matured as a business person, because it's hard in any business, and so through that process, I think you're at a good spot here, not only economically to hone in on them skills. Okay, and so that's where we're at with this. Let me see if I can get out of this. I'm just going to get out of this entirely.
Yeah, you can go from there.
Okay. Now, the reason this is my Facebook page, which is okay, but it could use some improvements. Forgive me, I'm just real used to a Mac, so this is very difficult a little bit. Okay, I'm going to show you something that I did a couple years ago. Well, actually more than a couple years ago. I think we should have volume.
It is a place for families and children coping with serious illness to find comfort and inspiration. It's called Noe's Garden of Hope at the Children's Home and Lemieux Family Center in Pittsburgh's Friendship Section. It's named in honor of Noe Ott, who lost her life at the age of just 5 months to a number of medical complications.
And through time, you'll pick up opportunities to do things like this. And I did this for $0. Okay. I was initially commissioned by the family, who now we've become friends and we help out with their benefit. I was commissioned originally because they lost, as you heard, a couple of children. And from there, you're able to do things for people too. And so success isn't necessarily always monetary. And the older you get, you realize that. At the same time, you still want to have a life and be able to pay your bills. And I'll just let you watch it. I think it's like 3 minutes or something. This is one of the, out of all the jobs, ones that I've been paid for, this is probably for me one of the more beautiful ones. It's just a really good cause. And after this, I'm going to show you another project from Penn State that I was paid to do. And I'll show you the process through getting that job and then creating it. Okay, that day it rained, that evening it rained so hard, it was so muddy, it was hell. It was really difficult, it was so muddy. You know, I took some drafting courses here, and I really encourage you guys to diversify a little bit. I took some drafting courses. I like architecture. Okay, I'm using a lot of these skills. I have some from Slick Rock, but I'm using a lot of the skills I've learned here. Designing this stuff, drafting. I do drafting with pencil. It's not computer. I do it by hand. I use them in landscape jobs, commission work. You can use them on all those things. So definitely diversify your talents, challenge yourself.
And we're so grateful that the Children's Home was here for us when we needed them, and when our daughter was in her greatest time of need. But we really wanted to do something positive in her memory and something to give back to the organization.
The centerpiece of the garden is a sculpture of a daisy symbolizing the innocent souls of children lost, with its leaves showing the promise of hope and brighter days ahead.
One of the things I want to show you too is with Penn State, I think it was 5 years ago, whenever you're pursuing something, anything, you've got to product. What are some of the things what classes are these here you're taking? Like, tell me some of the things you're interested in. Graphic design, sculpting, painting.
My garden philosophy follows permaculture somewhat loosely, I should say. In my garden, I try to mirror the systems that are found in nature with trees, small shrubs, understory bushes, and ground cover. So when I plant and when I
Facebook page. I think I found it. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. All right, I'm going to scroll down. Here's my Facebook page, and it's a little bit hard to see. There's a whole host of stuff that I've made, and again, it's market driven. And I really want to emphasize getting somebody to buy this. One of the things when you're developing a product, and I asked, what are some of the classes? What are your interests here? Painting, okay. A lot of painters. What other mediums? Okay. Yeah, that was the same thing with me. I was taking drafting courses. So whether it's any medium, what you want to do when you're trying to develop a product, okay, and make a living off of it, what you want to do is look at the competition, get online, look at what the market value is. All right. So once you can determine that, you have some ideas in your head, you put them down on paper. Once you determine that, you have to develop it, prototypes, and it's a whole process, but that's the fun part. After you develop a product, you've got to go through three things. And unfortunately, this isn't jiving, but I have it kind of laid out. You have to go through a process of what's called opportunity cost, which is basically your risk. All right. And whether that endeavor is worth your time. And then there's something called a break-even analysis. You guys ever hear that before? What does it cost? Your time. And really, frankly, if you're manufacturing, making a product, there's a whole host of compliance and government that you have to get through too. Okay, so you have to factor that into your price as well. Labor and all the other things that are there. So once you've determined that, and at the end of that analysis, if you think you can still compete, then you've got yourself an opportunity. If it doesn't, then to be totally honest with you, put it in that category where you enjoy to do it. And then move on to something else. Because quite frankly, I would like to be doing life-size figures and stuff like that. I make crazy stuff. I have all this stuff in my head. But you know what I mean? You have to discipline yourself. So I'm hoping that makes sense. I'm trying to communicate that. And I'm going to scroll down. Here's a project. I couldn't make it viable. It's an awesome idea. Check this out. This thing was so cool. And if you can figure it out, look at that thing. That's awesome. It's a little fireball. What's the problem with that? It costs way too much money. I found a company in, was it New York or Maine, that made a ceramic powder. Okay. And I did some test castings. You know, at the end of the day, by the time it was like $100 to produce, you couldn't even, and it's so small. If I were to make one that was actual, you could put out, I mean, at this point, it's just sitting there. So if you have some ideas, if you can figure it out, help me out, please. Cause I think that would sell. So so you go from making figurative pieces to stuff like that. And that's market driven because outdoor living spaces and things evolve. I want to make sure I'm good on time. Okay, now how do you go back? Let's see here. I want to show you this Penn State project because that kind of shows you too from beginning to end. I think that's kind of cool. There's the bear. Benches are big. I do some decor items, and to be totally honest with you, a lot of this stuff with with discretionary spending. You got to look at that stuff. Okay, so I have a whole host of low-end items and high-end items. This is where I moved from. I'm now in Latrobe. I did a little retail on this side of the business and stuff locally, but I moved to Latrobe. But my business model is more shipping and e-commerce. Did some pillar work. This is a really cool piece. This is another one. You see that? That's a bench. Now, it's a cushion, though. I sculpted out of clay, and it's actually stone. One of the issues with that is it's so heavy that you can't really sell it. So I've actually developed a lighter weight mix design and to try to work that out, but there were some issues there. So back again to creating something that you can market. So again, it doesn't have to be what I'm doing, but at the same time, it could be a two-dimensional. And frankly, two-dimensional sculpture is a little bit difficult because two-dimensional, you probably have a lot better of a competitive edge to market yourself versus shipping these heavier items. And again, I apologize because I had an outline for you guys. It was a little more organized because some compatibility issues here. Here's another piece. Here's the Penn State. And unfortunately, this is a really cool process. There it is live, flowing. I was approached from a customer that bought a piece from me years ago, and they came back to me because they knew I made it. And we sat down, I came up with some drawings and started there. And one of the things I will tell you as a business person, which you're probably going to have to be at some point, whether you work for somebody or not, you have to market yourself, is finding out what their budget is. And frankly, that's not a bad question. If you're talking to anybody at school or whatever, I say, well, what do you want to spend? I've learned that. What do you want to spend? I mean, I don't want to rape you. At the same time, I don't want to, do it for nothing. I'm okay making a living and making a couple dollars. And, so you ask them, let the customer tell you. You'd be surprised. They'll forfeit that information. Now, if it's complete, again, ethics is huge. Okay. If you want to have a future and have a name, you can't, basically screw people. So if they give you that information, that's great. Then you can see if it's viable, right from the beginning. And why I'm telling you that is because if you're out there, you're going to learn because you're going to make so many mistakes. But if you're out there feeling somebody out as far as whether that's a project, if they give you that knowledge, I've had so many times like that horse drawing I did. I spent so many hours developing that for the people in Kentucky, and they were like, it wasn't even a realistic number. Like, they don't know. Either they don't know or they're extremely cheap or naive. So they'd come back. So your time is so valuable. So that's one thing too. It is the negotiation process before you even spend any of your expertise level, because again, your value is way higher than you even know. If you're able to do that and feel them out, then you're going to save yourself a hell of a lot of time. Okay. And unfortunately, I really wanted to show you the process from the beginning to the end. And it is on the Facebook page. You'll be able to see it. Okay, here's some pictures. Good. This is where it started out at, all right? So you're developing a product. You have a space. You go out. Then you fabricate it, okay? And then here's the end result. This is the funnest part. But back to what I said before, I'm a figurative sculptor by trade. This is not what, but this is something that's viable that I can do. I want to get back. I do want to show one thing here. Now back to the business aspect. I'm going to pull up my 2016. I sit down. I have an employee, and we sit down and we talk. We want to. You always want to focus, but you want to try different things. And at your age, you buy stuff online. You're into that stuff, right? I mean, everybody does that, and that's the way commerce is trending. All right, so 2D people, you've got a heck of an opportunity. You're two-dimensional people. Are you doing anything with your work yet? Are you trying to sell it? No? If you were to sell it, without me telling you, how would you sell it today? Being that you're tech savvy, how would you do it? Okay, that's a start. Etsy. That's something that's in my business plan because what else? Facebook, Etsy. What's that? What's the name of it? Weebly, never even heard of it. That's something that probably I'll try to access myself. Now, how does that work? Okay. Okay. That in itself is the lowest. The internet has presented an opportunity for young people like you guys and myself. I would encourage you to try to sell some. I would start, to be totally honest with you, Amazon. It's where I started selling some stuff. I have, I mean, I ship all over the country. I've got more contacts and more calls through Amazon and other online venues. That's a way to start. That's really a way to start. I have my own website, but to be honest with you, my dedication, unfortunately, isn't so much to that. And that's where my weakness is. And if there's somebody in here, or somebody that's involved in that graphic design or that web design, I was telling Michael, I've bought sites for specific product lines. Okay, whether it's memorial, whatever, religious pieces, whatever it is, I have domains sitting there. And but right now, Amazon and these other sites is where I'm getting my business and traffic, and then it boosts it up. So you're going to learn. But I would really suggest that you guys try to take some of your stuff and sell it, put it on there, and figure out. Just start now, and then you can build a portfolio and not only a portfolio, a resume to companies. So I would definitely encourage that. I don't know where I was going with that because I kind of lost track. I want to show you my outline here. Let me get back. And so back to the business aspect of it, as you can see, this whole thing got so screwed up. It was out of loop, which has kind of messed my presentation up a little bit. But I wanted to show you from the beginning to end where the work progressed, like I said in the beginning. And it's a whole host. I never imagined I'd be doing landscaping things and things like pillars or so we at the beginning of the quarter, these are just basic notes, and we'll take a sketch off of this. I don't know if you can see that, but it you really can't see it. Okay, so is this the 16 outline? Yeah. All right. Still really can't see it, but I'll sit down and it's just organizing it. Are you organized? I'm not. Are you? No? That's a discipline you have to really work on. Thank God my wife is. And Birds Unlimited was a small franchise. We just sell some bird bags. We're not in the bed, but it's a platform, so I'll sell it. Heck, Local country farms. There's a few local outlets I'm still wholesaling. As a manufacturer, it sucks in this country. It's probably one of the worst positions you can be because of what's going on in devaluation in China and other things. Okay, so there's issues there as a manufacturer, and then our own system here doesn't allow us to create and produce. So that's a challenge. So you have local vendors there, and here's another one. I want to update Amazon. AMA is Amazon AG site. House. I just got on House. You guys ever hear of House? House.com. It's like a design site. So I got some stuff on there. And then Amazon Canada, I was looking in the tariff. See, there's things that I'm just showing you my outlines. I started off as an artist sculpting people, things that I like to do. And then, to be honest with you, the longer you're in business in an odd way to survive, you do less of what you love. But when you do what you love, it's worth it. Marilyn Bernard, I still talk to them. They have a few contacts. I'm thinking about doing some countertop work. And then here's the e-commerce, lily.com, Zappos, the one you just mentioned. I'll try to, if you could let me know at the end, again, what that is. Hey Needle. So there's a whole host of stuff. Then you go over here and you organize your thoughts and prioritize it. And you find out what's most profitable as an artist, as a business person. And then I always put in, and I encourage you when you get started, I always put in the new design stuff, the stuff you like to do, okay? I have some small patio furniture. I hooked up with some other people, some shows that I've done, and I would suggest you guys do right away. Locally, where you can start. This seems overwhelming. It seems probably like, how the hell am I going to do this? But it takes life. It's your life. This is what you want to do. want to do something locally, that's the way to start. Diane, I know her at the Westmoreland Heritage Community 4th of July show. Ligonier Days, okay? There's wholesalecrafts.com, right? I used to be on that. I didn't have much luck with it because my stuff's heavy. But 2D people, wholesalecrafts.com. There's a whole commission basis out there that you can get commissions through and put your applications in. I haven't had luck there, but it doesn't mean you won't. So I would encourage you to start there, start small. And so, and then you sit down, and for me, each quarter, I always put some creative aspect because you don't want to get out of that. So unfortunately, it shrinks because I have bills to pay. And so there's some patio furniture. I hooked up with an artist from a show, they're wood maker, okay? And things are trending, and a lot of my work's based on, you got to sell. So I went that direction, and I'm working with some people that make really nice furniture. I'm doing castings of these tops. I'm going to polish them and stuff. You can do designs in it. I have all kinds of ideas, and that's fun. You're still trying to do it, and it's fun. It may fail the 3 tests that I told you about, okay? And if it does, like the fireball, it sits there on the Facebook page. And a lot of it will. So with that being said, we've got about maybe 20 minutes left. I'd like to open up the questions because if I can help you guys out and we can network each other, I can maybe get you in touch with some employers. I don't know where you're at in your life, but at the same time, I hope I saw this dude back here sleeping. You sleeping over there? I'm just kidding. So if I can open up, you guys have any questions and like anything?
Can you mention like the space where you are now and why that's a good space as an artist? Because you have a good workspace, but you're in proximity to welders and machinists and others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in Latrobe now. I lease a space in Latrobe. It's a 5-acre building. It's called Unity Industrial Complex. Inside of this building, it's an old die casting plant, so it's awesome. It's a dump. It's not a dump, but it's not clean. It's not clean, because I do precast and people, they produce. You know what I mean? They don't, they're not serviced, they're produced. And inside of that building, there's a lot of small businesses that you can access. And if you don't know how to weld, or you like maybe, hey, I never thought about metal, or it's there. I'm taking shavings from a machine shop and trying to incorporate it in the product and polish. There's all kinds of stuff. And then I have a pattern shop that does work for plants, and you go there and he's cutting my forms. So some things that I don't have the talents to do, and I'd sit there and screw around and screw it up and waste money and my time. I go over there and this guy here can do it. And so if you're in an environment like that, that's awesome. But where I started out was in a garage. I started, with a wood burner, okay? And so you start small. And so you can do things that are, if you're getting in front of the right people. I guess that answers your question. So you're able to access other people's talents, which is where I started, is value. I have some value, but I have a lot of other values that aren't so good. So you try to find those. Does anybody else have any questions? Like anything at all? Sure. I think that's one of the, not only in art and life, how did I personally do it? I have my faith, okay? And so I felt in my heart that God gave me a gift. So that for me, that's where I started. That's my center, okay? So if you don't have that, that's fine too. You have a soul, you have a center, you have a talent. You specifically have a talent that you have, and you're here and you found it. Some screwed up way you come through and you found you're here, so do it. And I laid it, and the other thing I did is I laid in bed and I thought to myself, okay, I don't have hair now, and a lot of it has to do with business. But at the same time, I laid in bed and I thought, you know what? If I'm gonna be 40 years old or 50 or 60 years old, and the end of my life, not doing what I want to at least try to do, just try it. Okay, so those two things, that if someone doesn't like it, they're not going to buy it. I remember I started out and I started using mold. I made mold stuff, started casting stuff, and I went to a flea market and I freaking I remember taking my plaques and throwing it down in tears, like, this sucks, you know, just throwing it, just horrible. You know, I was like, then I grounded myself again. You know what the problem was? The problem was I was selling at a flea market. These people are cheap. You know, so you got to, that's where the business sense, you have to get an equity, a brand equity. You have to diversify. I sell stuff for thousands of dollars. A lot of stuff I sell for very low cost, very low margins, but it's cash flow. And I want to get into something real quick. You do anything, get a little loan for your family or something like that. Do not go into debt. I got one employee, I'm small, okay, I don't gross a lot of money, but I pay my bills. Cash flow is huge. Okay, cash flow means it's the account, you know, what you have in there, you got to pay your bills, you know, stuff like that. Your cash flow, you've got to be able to forecast, look at, what am I doing now? Is it going to make me money by the time my bills need to be paid? Okay, so you can go through that process. But when your best advantage is you have no overhead. Internet's huge. Access it, do it. Any other questions? Yeah, I overpriced myself when I began to try to wholesale. I made some sales. I'm like, all right, back to this young lady here. Back to what you're saying. When I first started, I started selling some wholesale to some garden center. It's like, man, I got some sales. I'm building stuff. I'm trying to build inventory. You know, I got some little bit of money. I'm putting it here. Got a couple calls, but it really wasn't moving. The product wasn't moving. Like, no, I failed. You know, well, you're trying to get way too much money. So back to what I said is what you want to do is look at what the market's bearing, whether it's worth your time. The one thing I can say is that even though China and everything else and the way that the government said, the way manufacturing is in this country, okay, even though it's in decline, one thing I can say is what your best asset is your creativity. Your best asset is your creativity. And then you build value. You can begin to build a little bit of value. Okay. Now there's things going on now in the economy that there's deflationary factors. So now I'm actually, my margins are shrinking because I need to cash flow. But there's, I don't want to complicate it, but in the beginning, I set out like $55 an hour. Okay. You can start there. All right. If you know, and that's based on what I have, you know, going on. And so I would start something like that. And in the beginning, you've got to forfeit that wage a lot, at least initially. Build. You can't, you know, so you're going to be, okay, I took on a countertop job. I don't have much experience with doing it, but I think it's kind of neat. I think it's trending. So I took a job. There's a lady in Murraysville. I went out, I know I can do it because I have the access there. So what I did is I called some marble places, some granite places, and I figured out what they're paying a square foot. And I looked at it and I stepped back. Well, I'm producing it. If I'm not installing it, I can charge this amount and still make a buck. Now, what I've learned is I'm probably still going to make some profit. It bought me some materials, 10 sheet of metal. Okay, so I'll probably break even, maybe even be a little bit in the loss, but now I have a platform to do more of that work. The next job will have much higher margins. So to answer your question, yeah, you definitely want to look at the competition, or if it's a niche thing, that's your talent. Don't ever sell yourself short. But then again, if you have nothing else lined up, don't do it for free, but you know, say, hey, look, you know, I'd like to do this for you, so I'm gonna sharpen my pencil, give them, you know, feel them out. So, you guys have any other questions?
This is specifically with your work. How did you do the writing stuff?
Okay.
Laser?
No, I don't do that. So I don't have time to do it. Found somebody to do it. It was expensive. It was not reliable. Then I found somebody else. I bounced around. Now have somebody local who's doing it. And so we worked together and I negotiated with them. I had them in my shop and I talked to them about it. And said, hey, look, if I can give you residual sales, can you give me a better price? We worked it out. So now it's something that's kind of viable. But at first I was going, that etching and engraving processes, that's hard. You know what I mean? That's hard work, and it's so. Sorry. Any other questions, guys? You young man. I worked at UPS at nights, roofed, you know, did some things that I learned when I was in high school with my hands, a lot that I still use for, you know, using tools and stuff like that. So I always try to do something at least would correspond to what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Does that make sense? So I would do that. And frankly, I got married. My wife works, so that's nice to have a dual income, you know? And so that helped. But I mean, before that, like I said, I would work for UPS, and then, you know, you have to start somewhere. I took a small loan from my brother. I paid him back the first year. Don't ever borrow money. That's in my opinion. Okay, this is why I have only a employee and I'm small. Okay, but at the same time, I've seen businesses, Cranberries, huge garden centers, borrow all this money and they're gone. So that's the only thing I can say is I'm very conservative. So I would just really, really tell you to don't borrow money. Okay, but as far as that goes, I would definitely just anything you can make a buck. I mean, and if you can use your talent doing it, then do it. So, did you?
Yeah, I just had a question about your hands drawing skills or sketching skills, like somebody has a concept. And then the other question is, what if you have a customer that has unreasonable demands and like keeps making all these changes? Do you get to a certain point and say, I can't work with you?
A couple times that's happened. I mean, you've got to keep your mouth, bite your tongue a lot. You got to remember who you're working for. You're working for them. Okay. So, and as far as the drawings and concepts go, this young lady, sometimes I right in front, as time goes on, I'm more comfortable. I can do it now. I can just talk to somebody and say, okay, I can kind of sketch something out. I'd say, well, let me just, so you kind of want like this, let me get back to you. I'll make a preliminary draft for you, a drawing, because you're probably going to feel more comfortable doing it at home instead of them. So you've got to grow and mature that way. So, but as far as somebody, and at the end of the day, you got to be like, well, at some point you understand that I'm going to have to probably invoice you for this amount of service. I mean, if we continue to go, but I'll do this for you here, then, you know what I mean? And then at that point they stop, they'll make a decision generally. So starting up here, what do you do? What's your medium? Okay. That's okay. Okay. But this takes forever, trust me. Okay. You mainly what? That cakes is probably, I'm serious. I think one of the most profitable things is baking. I think somebody just told me that. It really is. It really is. That's pretty cool because you could probably go to some of them venues I was talking about. And if you have it, if you want, I should put a tablet out. If you have those talents, just write that down in your name or whatever. If I can shoot you something, or somebody that I've met, there's a guy that does similar stuff that you could probably even apprentice with, or. You do shoes. Shoes are in demand. There's a website that there's a shoe website. You know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to think of the name of it. But they started off, yeah, they thought outside the box, and they're selling all their shoes online. I'm trying to think of the name of it. You know what I'm talking about? My wife. That's different. That's neat. That's neat. Do graphic design? Okay. Now, yeah, shoot me an email or something, because maybe you can help me. I don't know. Yeah. Mostly drawing. Okay, well, if you have questions too, you're welcome to email me anytime. And again, if I don't get back to you right away, it doesn't mean anything at all, other than the fact that it's like I said, it's just the only other thing I can do too is on that card. Now I'm at in Latrobe. We don't have a storefront. You just pop up. I tell customers this too. If you just pop up on my door, we're either working in production or doing something. So if you wanted to, you call or whatever, but the email is the best thing. And I'll try to get back to you within a reasonable time. And that means like a week or something, maybe 2 weeks at the most, I would think. But, I'm trying to think, the business side, is there any other questions on the business side? Like, you had a really good question. How do you start with just get over that. Forget about it. Forget about it. The worst part is when stuff goes wrong, you just have to go and make it right. You know what I mean? So if you did something, you would, let's say it just forget about that. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. At the end of the day, the worst part is online. I hate reviews. I have on Amazon, I got 5 years, all 5 stars and stuff like that. Some people leave these reviews like I saw these 10 commandments and somebody says that one of them was wrong or something. It's like, I got it out of the Bible. How can that be wrong? But so that you have to be concerned. You have to listen to what they're saying, and because they might, so I'll probably there's some things. But what else? The biggest thing I can say in business is just, boy, you got to find competition. You got to look at what you're doing, how it's different, how you can create it, how you think you can make a profit, and pursue it. And then sit down. I tell you what I do. I'll take a stopwatch and I'll figure out how long it takes to build a stripping item, the new item. I'll time it. I'm timing. I have to know how much time I sit there and let it, and I'll do that. And then I kind of have an idea. I'm not real organized, but I know what it is. I'll jot it down on a tablet or something. I know, and then I'll come up with a cost. So the other thing is shipping. If you're going to do shipping and stuff, if you did want to do anything on the shipping and in e-commerce, that's a huge expense. It took me a long time, 3 years to finally figure out. I reduced my cost in shipping dramatically, and that's a huge cost. So there's some things, I can get you some things there too. Discounts and stuff like that on ground. They can get you into some people. So is there anything else?
I wanted to tell you that any of our students that are AFA majors, they're required to take a social media marketing class. They go on. We are just proposing 2 certificates, one in art business and one in art technology. And the art technology will be an advanced technology center. A lot of like what you're talking about doing.
Commerce, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're right, Del. They will be prepared. But my point in saying that is that if you guys do the social media business class, hook up with him to do an internship so they can help you. And you could give them the experience. That would be a great internship.
Yeah, there's some possibilities for that, and I was talking about that. Now, a full intern, I mean, we could talk about that. I was even thinking about, if you know somebody, I have these domains. I was even going to go out. I pay Amazon 15%. Okay, now I'm not saying that I could forfeit the 15% initially, but at some point, if you wanted to be creative enough and then design something, you can get a percentage out of the sale or something, and I'll put the product up there. I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't have the time, and it's just, so that's a really good point. And I'd like to access some of your value. Like when I was sitting here thinking about talking, I wanted to really access your value, because it's probably like the Facebook stuff. I don't quite get it. I mean, I do it. I put a few posts on, but not until this year did I really get any business out of it. I guess a lot of people do shop on it. I don't know. It's just, I'm kind of trying to still learning that. Pinterest is big, but I don't have the expert, you know what I mean? There's just, so.
Learning this, right? He's in that social media. What?
Yeah, and the only reason I even got into that, because when the economy went south and I had that little retail place, I did some stuff. I was almost all local, didn't really ship. And then, well, I was either I'm out of business or I have to do something. And the internet retailer, you ever heard of that? You ever heard of that? Internet retailer? You just Google it and then look up. You can just give you the 50 top retail e-commerce companies. You read about them, look what they're doing. Google's always screwing around with stuff. I can't stand Google, but it's just, they're making it more and more difficult for small businesses. It's just the way their algorithms are changing. Like I just realized I'm being penalized. I bought, on my website, I went and I kind of paid some money and got some things revamped. And what's the one program? Dreamweaver 6 or whatever. Everybody's doing their mobile devices. Okay. So my site, 2 years ago, I read and spent all this money and bought this stuff, and I was reading all this stuff about it. Internet, you're supposed to have like all these images. The more images, the more JPEGs you have, the more code in the back. The search engines grab, you know what I mean? And Pinterest and all the little connections that you have that the search engines will find that'll boost your ratings. Well, now I found out from Google, it's the opposite now, because it's all about the tablets and iPhones and the phones. Now you're gonna have to you need to reduce it and make it more, and so I was like, well, what the heck? I just went through all this, so it's always changing. So, but I'd love to hear your thoughts and I'll tell you what I did last year. I talked to Country Farms, the local people there. They have one of their commerce people. He mentioned her. She's a real go-getter. And he says, Cliff, look, you got these domains. You want to do these things. She's real aggressive. Why don't you talk to her? And I never got to talk to her. She says, why don't you talk to her? She knows how to develop this stuff. Give her the stuff. Let her develop it. You pay for the hosting, develop it or whatever. Okay. And then give her a commission on an item set per sale or whatever, however you want to work it out. And that's what, and you're talking about an internship. I'd rather frankly do that to help put some money in your pocket and build your resume. Okay. So I'd like to help that way. And that's where for my needs initially, but I mean, your shoes or your cake thing and the shoes and some of your other stuff, I think's really interesting. And what I'll do is I'll email you some of the platforms that you can market yourself and look at opportunities, whether it be public commissions or, some different things that I'm hearing here, you know what I mean? And I would definitely access, going to the Arts and Heritage Show. You'd be surprised. I mean, and don't crush your spirits just because you fail, because you better get used to it. That's why I don't have hair, because I continue. So, other than that, I really appreciate your guys' time. And is there any other questions? Yeah.
There is an English faculty adjunct, and she started making these pumpkin rolls for Thanksgiving. So first year she sold 10, and then recently she sold like 150. So she uses Pinterest, but she also uses Facebook. It's called Schoolhouse Bakery, and it's really cool. But she updates it every single day. She's always adding new pictures. So I was at a party the other night. There were like 10 pictures of this cake that she made, and it was like a hippie themed party. And so that was it. But she did like Sweet 16. She did a retirement for a state trooper, and she made a cake with the shield of the state police. So she does everything like that. But if you are going to use social media to market your business, update it frequently and take some neat pictures. And she's gotten a lot of leads from that. She can't really teach as much with us because her business has slowly evolved.
Yeah, and that's there's a lot more people that are successful. I mean, that's when you asked me to spoke. I mean, I've been able to do it, and I've grown, and I have some things that work and some things that don't. But there's some people that just sometimes you never know, you get a lottery ticket. But the biggest thing is those 3 things that I talked about when you're developing a product. Make sure if it doesn't fit, then just don't do it. So, but I really appreciate your guys' time. Okay. And, yeah, just use your head and just try something. You know what I mean? There's a lot you can do. Just don't go into debt. That's my biggest thing I can say. Personally, I would say, because I start, for a lot of businesses, they go into debt, and I got hurt last year. All right. And I was telling you this, and I don't have deep pockets, but I have, you eventually save some money and stuff. I was out with a concussion. I was out of work for 4 months. Okay. And then my guy, some issues there with unemployment office. I had to pay out of my pocket because the way it's set up, you don't get unemployment for 90 days or 60 days, whatever it's set up. It's so screwed up. And I mean, and then I found out that I lost like a lot of money, like 40 grand worth of product. Okay. Because I moved, and it was just all this stuff was happening at once. I tell you what, if I had a line of credit out on that inventory, done. I wouldn't be here talking to you. Okay. Yeah. It hurts right now, but I'm getting through it. So that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I can, at least personally. Now I know, being that a conservative approach, I know I won't be having a huge building and factory and, all kinds of people. But for me, that's not what I want to do. I want to create. So don't, just because I say it doesn't mean it's so. Just for me, that's all. And advice is just like anything. It's worth 2 cents. So I think that's it. It's 12. It's after.